Hi, everyone, and welcome to Vikings. Is this Vikings Now?
It's Vikings Now. Not only is it
This
now,
is Vikings
right now.
Right now. You're joining us, Jim Rich, along with Pierre Nugent. Vikings win 23-13 over the Tennessee Titans. Now 8-2 in the division, but everybody else keeps winning. Detroit slaughters Jacksonville. The Bears, of course, do Bear things and lose to Green Bay. And so even though you're 8-2, you're still in the meat grinder, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's proven to be probably the toughest division in football this season. I know that title kind of takes a rotation around the league every year, it seems like, but this certainly seems that the NFC North is going to be the toughest division in all of football this season. Could get 3 teams in the postseason with the way things are shaping up, but there's still a lot of football left to be played. Yeah, you're happy that the Vikings are 8-2 right now, but again, still got 7 games left, I believe. My math is serving me correctly. 7. I'm still getting used to that 17-game schedule, even though we were 3 years into it.
Don't worry about it because it's going to be 18 soon.
There's no doubt it will be. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
All right. The Vikings come through with another road win. This feels a lot better than the Jacksonville victory. Does it feel that way to you?
It feels that way to me a little bit. A steady performance today from the team. This game kind of reminded me a little bit of the Giants game in week 1 of the season. Not so much because of the score, but kind of how things played out. You turn the ball over early. Your opponent gets an early field goal to take the lead, but then you kind of take control over the game from that point out. We saw a steady performance today from Sam Darnold. Yes, I know he gets credited with that fumble in the pitch to Aaron Jones, to which I still don't understand why Sam Darnold is getting the credit for that fumble. It hit Aaron Jones right in the hand. So, I don't mean to make Aaron Jones' day any worse, but thinking that he should be the one credited with that fumble. But alas, it was a steady performance, not just from Sam Darnold, but from the entire team from beginning to end. And they won a game that they were expected to win. Even though it's a team that is down on their luck in the Tennessee Titans, Minnesota goes in on the road, again, wins a game that they're expected to win. And nothing is ever a gimme in this league, but Minnesota now 8-2 as a result.
Well, the key to this was after that fumble. And you're playing a team that's downtrodden. If the defense had given up 6 there instead of the 3, then Tennessee really would have had some momentum, really would have been feeling good about themselves, feeling, okay, this is a different type of Sunday for us. Instead, that defense comes out, holds them to just 3, and then all of a sudden, Darnold and company feel better about themselves. They go down, get the 7, and then all of a sudden, it's right back to a normal Titans game for the Titan players. They go, okay, well, we had our shot and didn't pounce on it. And Darnold, as he said, is credited with that fumble, but no picks today. And that's what everybody was harping on the last 2 weeks. 5 picks the last 2 games, none today. Much better decision-making by the quarterback.
Yeah, and this game finished, with both teams even in the turnover battle. It was a 1-1 in the turnover battle for both of these teams today. But, offensively, the Vikings really, in terms of their ground game, was a little touch and go today. It wasn't overall great, under 100 yards on the ground today. Aaron Jones, not a big game.
2.5 per carry.
Yeah, not a big game on the ground, but, and that's kind of where it got a little bit, just a touch surprising me because, Tennessee comes into this game, despite their record, with the number 1 overall pass defense in the NFL. We thought maybe that they would lean on the ground game a little bit more today to perhaps balance that out. And I thought that they would chew up some garbage time yards and perhaps a garbage time touchdown, thinking that this game would be out of hand by the time by the time we got into the fourth quarter. That was not the case. But I think that, remember we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and maybe even last week as well. The offense just didn't look on time, like the timely throws, just the pace of the offense. Even though, yes, I remember last week they had over 400 yards of offense, they just turned the ball over late in drives.
Right.
But today, the rhythm looked like it was there. The timing looked like it was there. And let's not forget, Dalton Risner started at right guard today. There was a lineup change along the offensive line today. That didn't really seem to affect things much. The Vikings offensive line giving up 2 sacks on the day. I'm not saying that was a direct result from Dalton Risner starting, but things just looked a little bit more smooth offensively today. Did it not? It felt that way.
Yeah, and I think maybe the run game wasn't as productive because you have Aaron Jones with the bruised ribs. You don't want to pound on him. Like, why in the world was he out there on that final possession when you're running out the clock? The last play of the game is a handoff to Aaron Jones. Are you kidding me? Give it to a lineman. You're just burning the clock, and you saw that guy throw him to the ground, and you're like, really? We would be roasting O'Connell. All of you out there in the comments would be like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. So O'Connell still has these questionable tactics sometimes. And, a lot of people go, well, the throws by Darnold, right? They were putting those interceptions on him. But then O'Connell, when he was on with Paul Allen on Tuesday on the radio, said, that's maybe a little bit on me because, I got to put my ego over here and not show everybody that I'm the greatest play caller. And I'm, paraphrasing what he said. He didn't say this, but, sometimes are Darnold's all mistakes on him, or is it O'Connell in his ear saying, you know what, go for it. Do not back off. I want you to take those calculated throws, because there were different throws today by Darnold than we've seen before. There wasn't those ones like, whoa, he got lucky there.
Yeah.
It did seem more calculated, more conservative today.
Well, I'm not going to use the word lucky, but boy, he got that ball out just in the nick of time on that first touchdown pass to Addison, did he? Because it looked like he was about to get blown up, and I was worried that was going to be a fumble because he was just a hair faster than the defender getting that ball out of his hand to Jordan Addison. And that's kind of where I want to go really offensively today. 8 targets today for Jordan Addison. Only 3 receptions, but still a very productive day. It looked like they were going out of their way to try to feed Jordan Addison the ball a little bit more. I think TJ Hawkinson's targets took a little bit of a hit as a result. But both the wide receivers, the big playmakers on the outside for Minnesota, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, both 8 targets on the day for them. And it was a good day for the wide receivers today. It really was. So credit to the offense and credit to the game plan from Kevin O'Connell. But I think really when you look at this game, defensively is where we really should have started here for Minnesota. Outside of one big play, the 98-yard bomb to Westbrook-Akine, outside of that, this Titans offense today was next to non-existent. Will Levis, I didn't think was terrible. Will Levis was coming off perhaps his best performance as a pro last week against the LA Chargers, who have a pretty good defense in their own right. I didn't think Will Levis was awful today. That offensive line doesn't do him much favors, hasn't really done him any favors all throughout the year. But defensively today for Minnesota, I thought they were spectacular. 5 sacks, 1 takeaway. They lead the league in takeaways.
Well, they had another touchdown, Tennessee, that got wiped out because of an illegal formation. And they were the ones that beat themselves more than the defense today. Because
13 penalties today for Tennessee, which was an absolute killer. Some of them not really justified, in my opinion. But you can't change the ref's mind, so to speak. And
so are you going to the Addison? You don't think that was a penalty? Obviously, the Titans head coach didn't think it was a penalty because he got flagged for sticking his finger in the ref's chest.
Jim is referring to the unnecessary roughness penalty on a 4th and goal for Minnesota. I'm with the Titans here. I understand why they're upset. The officials are going to say, well, he launched himself into the defender and perhaps argue that it was a defenseless receiver. I didn't see a foul there at all. I thought that flag should have been picked up. I thought that was not the right call in that instance. However, Minnesota did get the benefit of that questionable call, and they did what they had to do in that situation. They finished the drive off with a touchdown. So I don't think that should have been flagged, but I'm not the ref.
But, if you pull back, right, you said the offense was pretty decent today. It seemed in sync. They got 7 first downs via penalties today. That is the most in the National Football League this season. This officiating crew came in as the biggest flag-happy group in the league. They call more penalties
over Sean Hockey League.
Yes, that's what I was told.
Cleat is the name of the official. I don't remember his last name. But.
So if you start digging in this, was that offense that good? And the Vikings now, here we go. We could dig into this and poke and prod and see if the commenters agree or disagree. That offensive performance would not beat a good team.
Agreed.
Last week's offensive performance would not beat a good team. You're going to have the Bears again next week. They were pesky with the Packers today. So you'll more than likely be favored again, and you won't have to be in a shootout to win.
Right.
Because Caleb Williams still hasn't got it all figured out yet, or Eberflus or whoever is deciding what happens there. They haven't quite figured it out in Chicago, so they get another week. But this isn't the type of offense that's going to win you a playoff game.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree. We've been talking about this for a month. Now, granted, the Vikings have benefited from a soft schedule, but, I mean, they don't control the schedule. You don't play who's on the schedule.
Right, but look at Detroit. 52 they put on, a team that we couldn't get into the end zone against. Yeah. It's like, hello?
Yeah.
There's some
We've been saying this for a month now. We've been saying this for 4 or 5 weeks, that this offense is not doing enough. This isn't anything new that we've really kind of brought up. It's not just one bad week. This offense isn't doing enough. They miss a PAT today, so they should have really had 24 points on the day. And we mentioned it earlier in the part of the season. 24 points is that spot where you're kind of playing with fire. It could be enough to win you a game. It could be.
As long as Brian Flores is running the defense.
That's really kind of what it is. But you need to get to 27 and above. And I believe this offense has only scored 30 or more twice this season, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, even though they look balanced from really on both sides of the ball, and special teams I thought had a good day, minus the PAT miss today, this is not a new topic of conversation. This offense doesn't do anything to scare me. Once they go up against Detroit later in the season.
But it should be, though. Everybody says it. Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones. You have elite talent.
You don't have the quarterback
in
for
the
that.
skill positions.
You don't have the quarterback for it.
So is that where we're back to?
Yeah, you don't have the quarterback to allow you to have an explosive type offense. Sam Darnold is good. Is he great? No, he's not. He's not.
He was
great.
the NFC Offensive Player of the Month in September.
Was he? Okay. How about I give you that title and $5? You go get yourself a cup of coffee somewhere. It's
I'll take the $5. I already lost $5 today.
I know. Yeah. That doesn't mean a thing. September is a long time ago. That might as well be a different season.
Well, right, but that shows he's capable of it. That was a harder part of the schedule than they're going through right now.
Sure.
And he's just coming off 2 weeks where he threw 5 picks.
So
so you go back to the start of the season. What was it? Tennessee. It was San Francisco.
No, Tennessee was today.
Or not Tennessee. Who am I thinking
Houston.
of? Houston. The Texans. That's what I was trying to say. Texans. Yes.
Yeah.
So you beat the Texans. You beat San Francisco. Mm-hmm. You came up with a gauntlet start that everybody's like, oh, they'll be lucky if they go 1-3. There was some that were going 0-4.
Yeah.
They could have gone 0-5 if the Jets weren't a disaster. But the Jets have shown that they're not going to be anything to worry about this season. So my question is, how does Darnold look? And the offense carried the team at that point of the season. If you go back and look, which I'll look right now. So I'm saying, how is that offense rolling back then? Okay, you beat the Giants 23 points. Texans, you put up 34. Packers, you put up 31.
Yeah, but let's remember the second half of that Packers game was.
I'm not talking about the other side. Oh yeah, well, that's where it flipped.
And here's my question: then who do you blame?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Are you looking?
I'm just saying that I'm saying that this offense is not good enough to win a playoff game as it stands today.
I would agree. I agree entirely. And too many times we've seen this offense go away. I feel like we're kind of a broken record in this sense because, you know, we see flashes of it. Remember the first quarter against the Rams on Thursday Night Football? They put up 14 points like it was nothing.
Right.
6 points the rest of the game.
14-14 after 4 possessions.
28, what was it? It was 28 points, I want to say, against Green Bay in the first half at Green Bay. 3 points the rest of the way. No points against Indianapolis in the first half. 21 in the second half. So it's kind of like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? I mean,
that's what we got to figure out here, right? You commenters could chirp in. Where do you think the problem lies? Is it that they're not getting Jefferson the looks? They're not running routes that allow him to be open? Sorry. Or is it Darnold, which I think most of the arrows would be pointed at, or is it the lack of the running game, the offensive line not getting it done, or is Ty Chandler not getting it done? Cam Akers, he hasn't shown you anything yet, and you can't run Jones like a workhorse back because he's as small as we are.
Yeah.
And he's getting thrown around out there. He took some big hits again today.
I don't want to make it seem like I'm piling on a Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold has played his tail off for this team all season long, and he's enjoyed a very resurgent type season. But it's exactly as you said a second ago. This offense right now is not good enough. It's not. It was enough today.
Right.
It was enough last week, despite 3 turnovers. It was enough against Indianapolis. But when the rubber meets the road, when you got to take on some of the heavier hitters in the NFC, where is this offense going to be? How is it going to look? We're going to get perhaps an answer to that as the season goes on because there's games that are still left against Arizona, who's in the lead right now in the NFC West. Arizona, Atlanta, Green Bay, Detroit. Those are 4 important games for the Vikings as the season goes on, and they're going to be tested in those games. Can we count on Sam Darnold to be the type of quarterback that can lead the team when you're down 3 late in the fourth quarter and you're running the 2-minute drill? Is he the kind of quarterback that can put the team on his shoulders and make the right plays at the right time? We've seen flashes of it.
We saw a whole month of it.
But when the games count for real.
What flipped? And I'm not expecting you to have the answer, but I wonder what is flipped.
Well, we thought that this offense was going to be okay without T.J. Hockenson. And once T.J. Hockenson returned, we thought, okay, here's another level that we think this offense can get to. Because in the earlier part of the season, Aaron Jones was running beautifully for this team. And that was the part of this offense that was missing last season with Alexander Mattison. But in terms of where they tend to stall, last week we know it was all turnovers. You turn the ball over in the red zone, it's going to kill you. It's going to kill you. Today, give Tennessee credit. They did the best they could to prevent those explosive plays. Darnold tried to take a deep shot to Addison in the end zone, overthrew him today. But it's the explosiveness isn't really there. The chunk yard plays isn't really there. We've seen it from time to time. Justin Jefferson did have a 31-yard catch on the day.
Yep.
But, it sounds like, as I'm hearing myself talk, it sounds like I'm nitpicking at stuff because you're still winning the game.
That's what we're trying to figure out here.
But, yeah, the offense in terms of, like you said, if it wasn't Tennessee today, if it wasn't Jacksonville last week, if it wasn't Indianapolis the week before, and you're facing some of the more upper echelon teams in the league, would that be enough to get you a win? I'm not so sure.
Right. So how do we fix this? Because 8-2, you should end up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we have the availability. We're not worried about next week's game. You and I are not installing the game plan. We can look big picture. We can go down the road. The Viking fans that are watching this, you can look down the road. So how do they fix this? Where do they find this? So we can't go get another quarterback.
Right.
McCarthy just had another procedure. Do we get into those weeds?
Well,
what does that side say after you had a surgery in August and all of a sudden you're going back in it in November? But we'll save that for another off-season podcast. But
I feel like I got to get surgery on my knee right now too.
Don't go to never mind. I won't go there because it'll be. So, how do they fix it? What is lacking in this offense? Is it because, and this, I wish we had Pete Burson sitting here because he would throw cold water on me and tell me, no.
We'll have him later tonight.
Right. So is it Darnold? Is it the lack of a running game that is scaring opponents? Again, 2.5 yards per carry. Is it going to scare the Bears next week?
Right.
How do they get Justin Jefferson's numbers up? I mean, they're fine numbers. He had 81 today on 6 catches, 8 targets. So when they go to him, they're having a pretty good success ratio. Well, where do we go? And I don't have an answer.
Well, the one thing I will give Sam Darnold credit for today is, like we just mentioned a moment ago, the run game today was not great. It was okay overall, but for the most part, not great. Sam Darnold played very well today to uplift his team when they couldn't get anything going on the ground. Yeah, of course I would like to see a more explosive running game, but it feels like they're hovering around the right buttons and they're pressing 7 out of the 10, but they can never seem to press all 10 at the same time to go all systems go with this offense. And like we've said, it's been enough, but in terms of what teams want to do, they're deathly afraid of having Justin Jefferson beat them because that is the one guy that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. You desperately do not want to have a guy like him, a guy like Tyreek Hill beat you deep.
Right.
These premier wideouts are priority number one for all defensive coordinators. 6 catches for 81 yards, for Justin Jefferson. I know a lot of you fantasy players out there are thinking to yourself, that's not going to cut it. That doesn't get it. Where's
I need 120 and 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. Where is that? But we haven't really gotten it yet. And is that a problem? It's hard. It almost feels silly to have this conversation because they're 8-2. How do you argue with winning? But yes, I think everybody does know that once the schedule starts to get a little bit harder, this offense has to perform a little bit better because the defense can only do so much. Because when they're going to start facing some of these better offenses, when they see a guy like Kyler Murray, this dual threat quarterback who can do pretty much of everything when Arizona comes to town in a couple of weeks, how is that defense going to adjust? Are they going to be able to hold on and keep Arizona out of the end zone? I don't mean to overlook Chicago. I mean, but this is what I mean. When the big boys come to town and when you're playing some of the heavy hitters, your offense is going to have to do something for you. They're going to have to be the ones to try to carry you through. You can't rely on the defense every single week.
So I think what we're getting at here is finishing drives.
Sure.
I think that's what's lacking here because time of possession the last 2 weeks has been substantially in favor of the Vikings, but they've not scored. They've not been able to run up the score. They've scored, but not enough that's going to win you a playoff game. So I think maybe that's what like you said, they're all around these buttons. And they said it today. You can look at the post-game comments from the players in the locker room. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, they're saying when we click, it's going to be great. But we're 10 weeks in, and this offense should have clicked by now. We've got all the pieces. Everybody's here. Everybody's as healthy as they can be through 10 weeks. There's no major piece that's on the sideline or in the blue tent. We've got everybody out there right now. So this offense has got to figure out how to finish, right? They came out to start the second half. They had the ball. Here's your chance to really send a message to Tennessee. It's not your day. Instead, what do? 3 and out. Then the Titans get the ball. They go 3 and out. The offense gets it again, 3 and out.
Yeah.
So this is where they've got to get that offense to start daggering people and go on these drives and not only win time of possession and all the statistical numbers, more rushing yards, more passing yards. Look, they've got to get into that end zone more.
Just got to be more consistent. The consistency, like we've been saying pretty much all throughout the podcast, we've seen it for a half in some games.
Yep.
Then it goes away in the second half. Or we don't see it in the first half, and suddenly it reemerges in the second half. There needs to be a complete 60 minutes of football from the offense. And that is what we haven't seen so far outside of the Houston game, somewhat the San Francisco game. But it just needs to be more consistent. And I'm not saying that we need to, this doesn't have to be the 1999 Rams, the greatest show on turf or anything like that. I don't think anybody's expecting that. But we kind of feel like we're stuck in third gear with this offense. And what is it going to take to get to fourth? Hard to kind of put your finger on it.
Right. I don't. That's what we're asking. We really don't have an answer for you. Could it be Darnold? And then today, as you said, he seemed more deliberate with the ball. Didn't put it in dicey spots.
Yeah.
Didn't throw any 50-50 balls. Still was able to get to Jefferson 6 times. And again, we saw it last week where defenses were basically playing 2 safeties high to not let Jefferson get behind them.
Sure.
And also he picked up an interference call, so there's another completion. So you're getting the ball into his hands 6 to 8 times. That's not bad.
No.
That should be, or should it be 8 to 10 to 12?
I'd rather see it be 8 to 10. If you can get Justin Jefferson at least 10 touches a game, I would like to see it get there. But again, like we just said,
it's perplexing.
These defensive coordinators do not want 18 to beat them because, if he goes off for a monster game, that opposing team going into the film room on Monday, we're like, what were we thinking? I mean, he is the offense for the Minnesota Vikings. Why weren't we absolutely zeroing in on him to prevent us from getting killed by this guy? But 6 catches, 8 targets, I can live with that. I'd like to see it a little bit more, sure, but again, Jordan Addison was a guy who seemed like he was the odd man out in this offense for the majority of the season.
Right.
His dad even thought so a couple of weeks ago. But today, I saw a little bit more. You need 2 guys. You need 2 guys on the outside.
How about this? Do we need a third? And
yes.
maybe that's what's missing out of this offense, where you could put 3 out, and the third is a dependable target that people have to really concern themselves.
Hawkinson's supposed to be that guy,
or is it supposed to be Naylor or Sherfield?
I mean, Hawkinson's a different body type, obviously, runs different routes. I mean, doesn't have the speed that some of these other guys have, but that's what I think is missing from, Addison's a great route runner. He's got good speed. Does he have great speed? Great's a strong word. Jalen Naylor's nickname is Speedy for a reason. I'm not saying that he's your answer to insert, a different type of offensive game plan to involve him more and take advantage of that speed. But yeah, that's kind of where it leads us back to the lack of explosive plays on this offense, because there isn't a lot of team speed on this team right now. I don't think that's necessarily a problem sitting where we're at 8-2. But if you were looking for a home run threat, a threat to take the top off a defense needs to be there. And that's not really the case right now with this offense.
So is the lack of a KJ Osborne type of receiver holding this group back?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I would like to see a guy with a little more sure hands and a little more sure speed as a
Naylor had that one go right through him.
Yeah.
Pete Bursich, his favorite slogan is, if that was a spear, he'd be dead right now.
Right, yeah.
Because that one hit him right in the chest, and it went right through him.
Sure. Yes. I think we probably haven't thought about it enough in terms of this team not having a dependable third wide receiver.
Because we're looking back at Darnold saying it's him, but Cousins had Osborne. And maybe that, and Addison and Jefferson. So they could go 3 wide. How often does this offense go 3 wide?
Not often, not very often. Well, it depends on, what you want to count as your tight end, splitting.
Yeah, but outside, he's not going, as you say, take the top off.
He's not going, you're not lining TJ Hawkinson up outside the numbers. So I still think that there's not much. Justin Jefferson is the threat. Jordan Addison, if you sleep on him and you don't bump him off his route the right way, he's going to beat you for sure, no doubt about it. But in terms of just another wide receiver threat on the field, we don't really have that. It's funny because when you look at a team like Buffalo too, they don't really have a ton of speed either. They're doing this with Khalil Shakir. They just traded for Amari Cooper. They got Mac Hollins. So, and they like to line up their tight ends. Dalton Kincaid is injured right now, but they got Dawson Knox as well. So it's not like, it's kind of like Buffalo doesn't have that either. But when they got a guy like Josh Allen, it feels like it's different. It just feels like it's different. He's obviously a better talent than Sam Darnold, but when Josh Allen is back there, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable because I have him as opposed to not having the threats on the outside the way you need them with Sam Darnold.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We'll look at your comments. You tell us what this offense is lacking.
He'll look at your comments. I will not.
I tell him all. He sees it. Go ahead. You can make, This is a good suit. It's a good suit.
Yeah, no.
Watch matches.
No, this is a cheaper watch. I gotta get a more expensive watch, maybe for Christmas.
Why do
time.
people wear watches anymore when you have a phone right here that has the clock? Look at right there.
Listen, I thought you were supposed to be the old man of this conversation. You're making me out to be the old man here.
I was just asking. I have no taste in clothing or looks.
This is the only thing I like to kind of indulge myself in is a nice watch. This is
too bad Ahmad's not here because then he would set us straight with
That's true.
what looks good and what
true.
does not look good.
He keeps us on our toes when it comes to fashion.
Correct. Well, I have none anyway, so that doesn't matter. All right, where can people find this if they've stumbled across this accidentally and want to actually come back and watch again?
Well, you can always find us on the Fox 9 YouTube page. You can find us on Fox Local as well. Anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. We are the Vikings Now podcast.
All right, and how about your social? So people, since you won't read the comments, will you read if people respond at you?
You can get at me on X, which is at the Nuge Fox 9, THENOUJ Fox 9. You can also hit me up on Instagram, _Nuge.
There you go. All right, that'll do it. Your Vikings are 8-2, 23-13 over Tennessee. We're still, though, not happy with the offense. What do you think? All right, that'll do it for us. We will talk to you after the Bears. See ya.